Hello again, this is Alex from phpacademy.org producing this video for the New Boston. Now, in the last file handling example, we looked at appending data and we created this form here which appended data to the end of this file here. And so far we've appended 4 names. Now, what happens if we want to read in this data? I want to read in each name and display them to the user. And what we're going to do is we're going to create this inside this process here. So when they submit a new name, it just reproduces a list of the current names. And I don't want to reproduce a list of it on a line by line basis. I want to produce it separated by commas. Now, you may look at this file and think, how are we going to do this? Because they're not separated by commas, they're on a line by line basis. Well, we have various functions that allow us to open files and read in on a line by line basis. Now, remember using the for each statement, we can use that again here. So what I'm going to do is underneath here, I'm going to create a little section for myself to read this file in. In fact, we can do it under the F close. It'd probably be a lot better. So let's create a variable called readIn. This is going to be using the file function. This time we're not using fopen, we're just using file. And what we can do is we can specify a file here, and we're going to specify the file type of R, so we're reading that data in. So that is obviously going to be names.txt. So let's just add another name to the list and just double check if this works properly. Sandra, click submit. Expects parameter 2 to be long. Oh, right, okay, so let's get rid of that. So we're basically just reading this in, we're using the far function to read this in. There's no need to use this. Because we're reading in on a line by line basis, we're using this far function rather than fopen. So for now, just stick to this file function, and we're going to read it in that way. So let's refresh that. Actually, that will have written. So let's just check back on that. Okay, yes, we've got Sandra added to the end of the list. So our goal is to read the file in, which we've done. Now what we want to do is use for each. Okay, and we want to say read in as name. Okay, so or F name we'll call it, because it's the name within the file. So now what we can do with standard notation with the for each, we can echo out this F name each time, and then what we can do is we can append a comma onto the end of it. So the process goes, we start a variable called readIn. We use the file function to read in this names.txt file. What this function will do is it will read in the file on a line by line basis. There are other ways to do this, but they're a bit more complicated. However, this is the easiest way possible. Now what we're doing is we're using a for each statement, and we're using the array that's been read in, and we're using this array, each element of this array as f name. Then we're echoing out f name with a comma. So above this we could write current names in file, and then that should echo them out. Now you'll probably notice that when we run the script, we're going to have an extra comma after the list. So let's just try and add another name to this and see what happens. So I'm going to say Dan, and I'm going to click submit. Now you'll see it says current names in file, Alex, Billy, Stephen. At the moment it's not looking too great, so let's just tidy that up. We need to first of all see what's going on here. Now Alex has a space after it, as does Billy, as does every other name in the list, and we can use a function called trim to trim this down, and this removes white space from the start and the end of our name, as well as any other special characters. So just by adding this function around the name as we echo it, we can see that it's actually if we add another name in, let's say Josh, submit, you can see that it's removed that white space. Now what we can do is we can just get rid of or add a space in after that. We'll add another name in, let's say Dale, Okay, so now you can see that it's displaying properly. Now what we need to do is we need to analyse this problem that we've got with a comma at the end here. So as well as reading a file in this tutorial, we want to actually read it in properly and display things properly. So we need a way of counting all the elements in this text file. And we can do that with the count function. So I'm going to create a new variable here called readIn count, and that's going to equal count, the function count, and we're going to input the readIn array, which is created from this here. So we're counting the values in the array. Now what we can do is get rid of this, and we can start an if statement here. Now I'm going to say if count doesn't equal readIn count, and we're going to say echo comma and then a space afterwards. Sorry. So what's happening here? We're counting the elements in the array, and each element in the array is a name. So we're counting the names essentially. Let's just declare this count variable up here as 0. Okay, so if count, which is this here, doesn't equal readIn count, then echo that. Then we need to count plus plus at the end, so we're incrementing this count value each time. This will be 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to the amount of names that are in the list. Then when we reach the last one, it's not going to show the comma. So let's add another name in. Let's say Peter. Click submit. Oh, it actually has. Okay. So let's fix this. So if count, let's think about this logically. If count doesn't equal readIn count, if count is smaller than or greater than, yeah, it'll be smaller than. So if count is smaller than readIn count, let's add another name to the list. We'll just do Daniel this time, and click submit. Oh dear. Okay. Count is 1. Let's change that to 1 perhaps. I think that might be the problem. We'll just keep adding Daniel. There we go. Okay. So after a bit of fiddling around, what we've done is we have created a variable called count and assigned the value of 1. Then we incremented this each time, but just before this we've created a check to see if the count is smaller than the amount of elements in this fast, the amount of names. And if it is smaller, then that means that's fine. We can echo out a comma. Otherwise, if we've got to the last element in the array, then we want to we don't want to echo a comma because it's silly echoing a comma in the end. So after this tutorial and me making a couple of mistakes and correcting myself, I'm sure you've learnt a thing or two. So that's the end of this tutorial about reading in files with PHP.